Welcome back, everybody. As you probably guessed from the title of the video, this is what we are going over today. So this is the Palmetto State Armory JAKL. This one here is chambered in 5.56, and we have been shooting it for the last few months. And prior to that, I've been shooting several other JAKLs for probably at least 2 years now at different industry events. And this pistol, as it's configured right now, has been in development for a long time. And I do like that. A lot of companies will rush something to market and then sort of make changes on the fly based on customer feedback. Palmetto State Armory took their time with this one. Like I said, at least 2 years, probably more like 3, that it was announced to the public, but it is finally out and shipping and mass distribution. We've had this one in for a few months now. We're putting some rounds through it, and basically today we're gonna walk you through it sort of piece by piece, letting you know what is unique about it, what's kind of cool about it. And before we do that though, we do need to head out to the range and see what kind of accuracy you can expect out of this little package, and then after that we'll come back and walk through it front to rear. Now we're going to see what kind of groups we can get out of this thing. We have our primary arms. This is the GLX 4-16, so plenty of glass, first focal plane, with the Athena BPR, I believe. Yep, Athena BPR reticle in there. We have the Daniel Defense wave out on the out on the end. Mod light on the left side, shouldn't impact anything. Who knows? Everything else is factory. We have a CTK precision rest. We have the target downrange at 100 yards. We have a super high-speed stock with sand in it. And I think that's pretty much it. So first load up is going to be some Remington. This is 45 grain, 223 jacketed hollow points. This is the majority of what we put through it. Remington is the ammo sponsor for the video, so we appreciate that. And then we have some heavier loads to test as well. So let's get to it. Not a bad group to start out with there at all. Next up is going to be some 62 grain. This is the Barnes Vortex, their TSX bullet, all copper stuff. It's a 5.56 chambering. We'll see how she does. Totally different POI, very interesting. All right, and then we are getting Mirage now, which is always fun. And we will probably back the scope up just a touch to kind of mitigate that. Last load up is gonna be some Black Hills 5.56, 77 grain open tip match. This is, military stuff, and it's super expensive. I don't think you can get it right now, but I've had this in the stash, so we busted it out. But very good ammo, for sure. So we'll see how it does. Very interesting. Those were all good trigger pulls. All right, let's go check them out. So definitely not what I would have expected when I had those 3 loads out, but that's why you test everything. Every barrel is its own animal. So first off, every one of these, I was aiming at the bottom right corner. Bottom right corner, bottom right corner. And you can see the different point of impact shifts that we had there. So first up, of course, was the 45 grain. And right there, center to center, we are right at 1.5 inches on that one. So that was the best group of the bunch. And then we had our Federal, which opened up for sure. Again, those are good trigger pulls. That's just under 3 inches center to center. We're right at like 2 7/8 inches. And then the Black Hills open tip. What the heck happened there? Who knows? Again, why we test every barrel. Every barrel's its own animal. Didn't like it. So, yeah, again, right at about 2 7/8 inches. So, like every barrel that we test, as we always say, you got to check it with your ammo because, again, they all vary, is what it is. But who knows, with different loads, we could have definitely gotten some MOA groups. Just in this particular case, we didn't. Now that we're back out here on the dock, we will start out here at the end. We do have an A2 flash header on there. It is threaded 1/2 by 28, standard 5.56 threadings. Now, from what I understand, there will be versions of this in 300 blackout coming out, probably other calibers as well. I've actually shot the 300 blackout prototypes before, but as of when I'm filming this video, everything is going to be in 5.56, and this one here is going to have a 10.5-inch 5.56 barrel on there. It's made out of 4150 CMD, and it is a government profile. That's going to be one of the cons that I do have for this rifle. That government profile is kind of a little bit unnecessary in my opinion, so it's nice and lightweight back here towards the chamber rather, and then thickens up to a 0.75-inch gas block journal and then continues out front. Is it a big deal? No, just something if there was going to be an improvement going forward, or a next generation if you will, I would like to see that tapered down there just to save a little bit of weight out there on the front. Continuing back, we do have an adjustable gas block on this one. It's nice. It's a very, very good system. This system is a long stroke piston, which we will get into more as the video goes on, but this gas system is very, very easy to adjust. If you can't do it with your finger for whatever reason, you can stick a bullet, just a typical 5.56 bullet in there, get a little leverage and switch it back and forth. It is a 4-position gas block, and the only malfunction we have with this pistol, just kind of giving you the reliability right up front, is when I had the actual gas setting in the wrong position. So other than that, we had no issues, but the way the gas piston is designed is great, as well as the adjustable gas block. I do really like the system overall. Continuing rearward to the upper receiver, it is a monolithic upper receiver, meaning that it is forged out of one piece of 6000 series aluminum. So with the monolithic type of upper receiver, one benefit that you do get of it is just increased rigidity over something that has a separate handguard on it. So you can mount any type of lasers, IR designator, all of those types of things on there and not have to worry about zero shift like you would with a separate handguard. That said, do I think that is largely overblown with AR-15s and other rifles? I do, yes. But if you're really worried about that and you want like a dedicated coyote rig or something like that with an IR laser on there, this is definitely an option to look at because it is going to stay better than something like most free float AR-15s would do. That said, again, I do think it's largely overblown, but that's a video for another day. Continuing on back to the handguard portion there, we do have the M-lock slots at the 3, 6, and 9 o'clock positions. Then additionally, back here towards the rear of the receiver, we do have a QD slot. That said, the QD slot is aluminum, so you can get away with it for a while. However, if it's a heavy use rifle, you probably would want to add a steel reinforced QD just because aluminum on steel tends to wear over time, so you want that steel on steel there. But it is a nice feature for a lot of folks out there. But of course, you can mount any type of accessories that you do want to on there. Obviously, we have the light on there that we've had throughout the review. It's stayed put, it's nice and ergonomic. And the handguard in general has really good ergonomics, and one thing that helps with that is the charging handle. So here is our charging handle. Obviously, it is on the right side as it is configured right now, but it is non-reciprocating. So that means that when you're firing, you don't have to worry about the charging handle coming back and slapping you in the thumbs, reciprocating with that bolt carrier group. You can set it up obviously on the right side or the left side. I've had it on both throughout the review. It is a personal preference issue in my opinion, or a setup with what you're doing. Like right now I have it on the right side because I tend to prefer that, so that way I have my thumb more free to interface rather with the light. But one thing to point out about this handguard setup just in general, in terms of like a shooting experience, is that you have two things going on. So we have a long stroke piston system, which we talked about, and basically the piston interacts with the gas block right here, and that's where it comes out. When you fire it, it goes back, goes rearward, and with that you do get piston pop. Additionally, so piston pop, before I go on, what is piston pop? It's when you hear a pop going off from just the piston coming out of the gas block. It's an audible noise that you can hear. A lot of folks will never notice it. If you're somebody who shoots a lot of suppressed guns, it is something you pick up on. I did pick up on it. Additionally, one thing you do get if you're gripping it somewhere in this area is you do get a lot of carbon fouling and heat on your hands. So if you start shooting rapidly, you will notice that over time. That said, an angled vertical foregrip or even a vertical foregrip, if you had it in a rifle configuration, would take care of that for the most part, but just know it is something to be aware of. If this was the FDE version, for example, and they do make it an FDE, you'd be able to see black carbon all around the inside of it. I tried to get photos of it, but it was really hard to see with this black anodized finish on there. But just know that you are, especially if you're firing suppressed. Obviously, if you're not firing suppressed, you're not going to feel it anywhere near as much. But if you're firing suppressed with your hand in this area, you're going to feel some blast. Again, is it problematic? for most people, no. You really don't feel the heat until you get to around 15 to 20 rounds consecutively, and then you will feel it a little bit. Anyway, continuing on back, I should note that the upper receiver itself is not T-marked. And then back here towards the rear on both sides, we do have some weight relief beveled out there on it, which certainly is a nice touch. And then continuing on rearward on it, we do have this brace that comes with it from the factory. It does have the SB Tactical mark on there. I do believe Palmetto State Armory actually makes these as well. But the beauty of it is that, of course, you can push up on it and then fold it to the side. It does not lock in place, but there is spring tension on it, so you do kind of have to pull on it in order to get it out. You can feel that little bit of tension there. But of course, if you had it like as a truck gun, for example, you can easily actuate the safety as a right-handed or I suppose left-handed shooter and start firing the weapon if you need to. And then of course, as soon as you have time, pop the brace out and then start firing from a more stable position. But again, very simple in that regard. And you don't need to use their brace, but that is the way they do ship it. But it has a 1913 interface there on the rear. And really any of your stocks, braces, etc. that you want to put on there, you can do so. And additionally, we do have a QD socket there at the rear. So that way, if you want to run a 2-point sling, you don't need anything, at least as it comes out of the box to do so. You can just put it on there and you're good to go. Now we'll get into disassembly of the firearm. So first thing we're going to do, of course, is drop our magazine. And it does take standard AR-15 magazines for anybody who didn't pick up on that so far. And then at this point, of course, we're going to make sure that we are unloaded. And we are. Now we're going to pop our pins out just like you would with a traditional AR-15. Nothing fancy about that. One thing I have noticed on this particular model, I don't know if it's all of them, and it's right there, is that the front pin on this one is really tight. So folks who are into that, like a snug fit, if you're into that, if that's your thing, then you're definitely going to dig it. Now, let's talk about the lower receiver here real quick. It is a traditional AR-15 lower receiver. The one sort of specialty part, or probably two actually, the one specialty part though that you really notice is your bolt catch and bolt release. It is relieved on there because on our upper receiver there, we do have this beefed up portion on there, so that does make it sort of a unique part. And of course we have that plug in the rear of the receiver because you don't need a buffer tube or anything like that with this system. So that is additionally a sort of unique piece to the JAKL, but again, the actual receiver itself, standard AR-15. So there is that. In terms of the disassembly, the first thing we're going to do here on our upper is push in and down on this piece. So it's sort of like the opposite of an AK in that regard. And that is our recoil spring. And it does come right out there, as you can see. And then we'll take our carrier and bolt out assembly. And then at this point, you don't need to take it down any further than that, but they do make this sled portion that kind of rides up in here, which holds your charging handle. And if you want to take that out, you certainly can do so. And basically, you're just going to get down to this point, and you kind of feel it kind of loosen up there where our charging handle is going to come out. There you go. Charging handle comes out. And at this point, the sled does come out. And at this point, it's as disassembled as you're going to want it for any type of normal maintenance on the gun. Looking in there, you can see that we do have M4 feed ramps on there. So that certainly is a nice feature for reliability with various types of magazines. Like we said earlier, this sled portion there is where your charging handle interfaces. And they have made a change to this from the very early ones. Like the first batch, from what I understand, were a little bit thinner material. Of course, it's a steel material on there. And this one's been thickened up. So some of the earlier ones, from what I understand, were just a little bit, I guess, bending or cracking from various reports I've read online. These ones, again, are thickened up, and I've had absolutely zero issues with it at all. And you can see there, your charging handle will go in either way. And when you push it through, you just kind of have to make sure that it catches on the other side as it goes through, and then you're locked in place. And getting into our bolt carrier group, you'll see there that we do have a recessed retaining pin. Sometimes you can get it out with a bullet, sometimes you need a tool to get it out. I brought a tool just in case, and it looks like we are going to need it. It just depends how far it's pushed in there, but the recessed pin is nice, and you want it to be recessed so that way there's no friction as the carrier goes through the upper receiver. But we're just going to pull our pin out, and then our firing pin is a standard AR-15 firing pin, nothing fancy at all. Then you'll note that our cam pin is a little bit different, of course, than what you'd see on an AR-15. So you're just going to want to slide it forward, and then the cam pin will come right out. And we'll pull our bolt out. And a few things to kind of point out here, like I said, a lot of folks say it's an AK-AR hybrid, which in some ways it is. It's also an AK-AR-18 hybrid in some ways. It's sort of all three, in my opinion. But the bolt, very AR 18-ish for sure. If you're used to like a Sig MCX or even the HK 416 to a lesser extent, because the HK 416 uses gas rings, these don't, but it will probably remind you of that. And of course, it has a nitrided finish on there. And this is our carrier, and the carrier is going to ride inside the rails on the inside of the upper receiver. You'll note as well that we do have these rails here, which again, it's a long stroke piston system similar to an AK, but if you watch an AK fire, particularly on slow motion, you'll see the piston doing this constantly. On this gun, that absolutely isn't the case, and that has to do with these rails as well as all of these rails back here at the rear. It's very snug as it operates through the cycle, and you don't feel any jarring like you do with an AK. It just feels very smooth, especially for a piston gun. And of course, reassembling it is the exact opposite. Basically, we're going to put our bolt back in. You want to make sure your extractor is facing right, and then we're going to line our cam pin back up. You want to make sure that it is in the horizontal plane, meaning that the actual pin, the rail on it, kind of lines up with everything on there. We're going to put our firing pin back in, and then of course put our retaining back in. There is no spring on the firing pin. That is one thing to note. And push this one back in. Make sure it is good and recessed. At this point, to reassemble the upper receiver, we're going to put this piece back in. It lines up here on the rails, so you kind of can't do it wrong. I say that, someone probably will, but it's reasonably difficult to do it wrong. And then at this point, we're going to line our charging handle up with the slot there on the upper receiver. Let's see if we can get it lined up. We'll put it on this side just for kicks and show you we're going to put it through. And again, what I'm trying to do there is get it on the slot on this side. It may take me just a second, of course, here because I am on camera. I think we got it. Felt like we had a little bit of a click there. Maybe, maybe not. There we go. Just had to slide it in just a touch more and slide that home. At this point, we're going to put our carrier back in. And once again, if you take a look there at the rails on the upper receiver, everything lines up. And of course, the recoil spring goes in. You want this piece up. And again, we're just going to push in and make sure that catches in the upper receiver and that it is in the retained position. At this point, we're just going to put our two pieces together and we are reassembled. Quick function check. Everything works. At this point, I think we've covered the details of the pistol itself, everything you need to know in terms of operation. Now it's just sort of some thoughts on it overall. So first off, price point, right? This thing, as of right now, is coming in right around $1,100. You can buy it in like a kit and save a little bit of money. Sometimes you can buy a lower and an upper, save a little bit of money, but roughly you're coming in around $1,000, $1,100. As of right now, it's available in black and FDE. That may change. Again, as of right now, it's available in 5.56. That may change going down the road. But if you look around the market, if you will, at other piston-operated guns like this, you have your MCX, there's other options out there, of course, that have the ability to fold and fire. This is one of the least expensive options out there on the market. Now, compared to a direct impingement AR-15, there are definitely a lot of similar quality, I guess you'd say, ones that can come in at a lower price point. So it just kind of depends what you want. The advantages, if you will, of this long stroke piston system is that in terms of back here in the action, it is going to run cleaner. There's no doubt about it. That said, the disadvantage, of course, is that you do have that port pop that we talked about if you're wanting to run something suppressed. It will be a little bit louder than a direct impingement would be. Again, though, I would imagine that's not the majority of folks out there who are watching this video. So there is something to just consider out there. Another one is going to be that this setup here is not the most lightweight. And additionally, it is where the weight is kind of in the worst spot in my opinion. So it is heavy in the front. So this one here will roll the weight in, but just know that this brace back here is not all that heavy. So unlike, let's just say on the extreme end, like a bullpup, like a Tavor or a Hellion or something like that, where most of the weight is in the rear and it balances really easily, given the weight that the rifle has. In this configuration, it is a little bit front heavy. And then when you add a silencer on there, like we ran the majority of the firing cycle, it does add up in terms of weight. Just for example, to give you some sort of something to compare it to, this is a build of mine, but it has the Geissele URGI with the 10.3 inch barrel on there. And although this one here with the light and everything is about half a pound heavier, or excuse me, half a pound lighter than this particular setup, the feel of it is just very different. This one feels lighter when it's in the shoulder when you're firing it. But of course, this is a direct impingement issue. And then with that, with the shorter barrel, you have the issues of dwell time and those sorts of things that you simply don't have on a piston gun. Additionally, that, like we mentioned earlier, that gas block, being a 4-position gas block, very easy to adjust, very positive. Again, we had no issues with it. Now, speaking of the gas block, the majority of what we fired through this rifle, or pistol rather, has been Remington 45 grain 223. Although it is a 233 chambering rather, it's relatively hot. And I did try to fire it with that Daniel Defense Waves can on there in the standard position, and it definitely was cycling too fast. That's the only malfunction we have with it. But again, that's user error because I'm using a traditional style can, which is gonna, of course, put a lot more gas into the system and speed it up. So with that, we just knocked the gas block down 2 positions and ran it with over 800 rounds, have had 0 failures of any kind. So in terms of reliability, it's been flawless. We've had absolutely 0 issues function-wise. And honestly, that's really all you can ask for from a gun. We will definitely continue to use this though going forward. And if that changes reliability-wise, we will definitely update you guys. But in terms of a value proposition for what you get with a total package, I think it's excellent, especially when you compare it to other offerings on the market. Like I was saying, you know, if you look at the Sig MCX, which is, from everything I hear, a great gun, you're looking at more than double the cost of this, and you're getting a very similar feature set, and definitely one that at this point, I think with all the testing and R&D that they went through, seems to be a pretty proven product. Like I said, we've had 0 issues of any kind. I know several people that have these guns. I don't know any of them that have had any problems, so that certainly is, I guess, it's a good sign. If you have any questions about it or anything like that, you can definitely post those down below in the comment section. You can also post them at my various social media sites that you see here on your screen. If you like this type of video and you're not subscribed, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. It's free. You can do it. Just go ahead and hit it, and then hit that notification bell. If you think you're subscribed, just double check, because YouTube has been unsubscribing people lately. And additionally, if you are subscribed, if you've hit the notification bell and you're not seeing 2 to 4 videos a week here on the channel, you can sign up for my email at the website here on your screen. This email goes out once a month at most, and it has all of the videos since my previous month's email went out. So that way there's no big tech giant censoring your eyes from my content. It's, like I said, it's not super spammy. It's once a month. And then if any of the things that you guys have seen here, this pistol, the optic, the light, the ammo, any of that stuff goes on sale, it will be in my daily deals email, and you can sign up for that at the website here on your screen. It goes out every day as the name indicates, and if it's in that email, it's the cheapest I know of anywhere on the internet. So that way you guys can save yourself some time, because I've already done a price comparison for you, and hopefully save you guys some money as well. If you guys are signed up for the email, let everybody know down below in the comments what you think of it. So I think the reaction is going to be pretty positive. And with that, guys, we'll close the video out. Thank you all for watching. I truly appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing everybody in the next video.